Welcome to Afterthoughts, everybody. I am your host, John Garcia. We have a weird movie tonight to talk about, and I'm kind of excited because it's another nostalgia piece for me. I'm dragging the rest of my co-hosts through movies that I watched at a younger age and thought were cool.
This is making much more sense now.
Yeah, and,
up.
and now everybody's coming too. Joining me, the usual suspects, we have Ryan King.
Oh, sorry. Thought time had actually stopped, but I've just been sitting here doing nothing, pretending like time stopped.
That's definitely
away.
one theory of how time could stop. The other is that the writer doesn't fucking know exactly what mechanism to use. And the other voice you heard is Michael Dixon.
Oh, sorry. I was just over here drawing boobs.
It's just Dixon, I see that you brought a live nude model at you. Proceeding to sketch very poorly. Nice stick figure, though.
Thank you. They call me the Don Hertzfeldt of drawing naked models.
And the movie that we are talking about on this episode is 2006's Cashback.
This is the haunting period, the time when the demons of regret come for you. It felt like all the oxygen had been sucked from the room. I just couldn't fall asleep anymore. I suddenly found I had 8 extra hours. My life had been extended by a third. More time to think about Susie. It was getting obvious that I needed to trade some of my time. I give them my extra 8 hours.
Welcome aboard.
And they give me money. Cashback. I hadn't slept in 2 weeks. I drifted between imagination and reality. I imagined the remote control for life has been paused.
Which is written, directed, produced by Sean Ellis. I don't actually know that I know what else Sean Ellis has done. I've only seen this, to my knowledge, as far as I know. I'm not going to try to look it up because the moment I finished the movie, it was something that I watched, I think in college. It was on like Netflix. The whole synopsis for everybody out there who hasn't seen Cashback is...
All of you. That's everyone listening.
Everyone listening. No, there's got to be a generation that saw it on Netflix at that recommendation period. The same time I got recommended Black Dynamite, this came around. And for some reason I watched it. It's about a art school student who gets dumped and or dumps his girlfriend and then becomes like a weenie, a little whiny weenie. And he proceeds to bitch and moan in voiceover about how much he misses his girlfriend and how he's having an existential crisis. And so he gets insomnia from that and then decides that to pass the time, if he's going to be awake, he might as well get a job at a grocery store overnight. And from there...
Get some cash back.
Yeah, getting cash back. And he just starts sketching like naked women constantly. And he says that he discovers a technique to freeze time, which, you know, if you're reading the movie a certain way, it's... You know, he's saving memories and moments in his mind and then coming back to them and sketching them, and he has like a photographic memory. But at the same time, there's a whole scene where like another person invades the freeze time space, and it's like, what the fuck's happening now? And I didn't really know, and it just seemed like when I first saw it, I think I was in like a real moody boy phase where I was like, this has got like the right amount of heft for me. It's a cool kind of musing. It's got some cloaked, it's just like, it treats this women terribly. It's very misogynist.
Women are not cloaked.
Women are not clothed. Its misogyny is clothed in false like appreciation of the female form and like this aggrandizement of women. Even though all of the like women characters in it are very flat. Not fleshed out at all.
They're
complete
not flat,
objects.
though. Yeah.
They're guaranteed not flat by whoever was casting, probably Sean Ellis.
I would assume.
And like, the kind of thing that is weird about this is I've seen this movie 3 times in my life. And the first time I really liked it. The second time I watched it with a friend of mine who I thought might appreciate it, and she actually did at the time.
Oh, bold move, John.
But I didn't. I started to not. And I was like, something is very wrong with this movie. And that was my pre-critical thinking when my brain was still evolving days.
This is like you're in high school or college or something.
I was in college. It was like right after college. I was like, I remember this being kind of good. And then I watched it and I was like, oh no. And then this time I was like, man, fuck this movie. I could be anywhere else. And I was just like telepathically like, I'm sorry, Dixon. I'm sorry, Ryan. It's going to happen. We're going to have to talk about this. But yeah, so the synopsis is pretty straightforward. It all like kind of ramps up to this. I guess you could call it like it uses some of the cliches and tropes of what would be like modern romance movies where, oh, the guy, his ex, she like suddenly likes him now when he gets a healthy relationship and then she kisses him and it causes a whole rift. It's like a Hallmark staple at this point to have that kind of confusion. And then also the artist gets like his own gallery. He's finally recognized and validated for being as great as he's always known himself to be. Mm-hmm. And it feels so far up its ass. And then there's also moments that might genuinely just be funny, like interlude moments that I was like, this is a good gag, but it does nothing for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I kind of want to just bring back through and try to examine it because there's another movie that I want to bring in later that we can talk about as like a contrast of it. But for now, I'll kick things over to Ryan. What did you think about Cashback?
Yeah, this was awful. Yeah, I don't even know about there being funny things. I can think of one thing I thought was funny.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, it's not like laugh out loud. It's just like funny thinking about it.
It's like 14-year-old level humor.
Yeah. My main takeaway is like this, it felt like, and it is an early 2000s, but like an early 2000s boner comedy that didn't really get how to be funny.
That's actually, I was thinking it's like a failed attempt to make a boner comedy in the style of Paul Schrader. Like the main character is just destined to become a fucking
I was going to say this is
loner.
the saddest, lamest, most boring version of Taxi Driver that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, it was so muted too. That also really was off-putting for whatever it was trying to be. Like barely any voice intonation. There's only music in like the back quarter of the movie. Like suddenly they're like, oh fuck, we could have a soundtrack. Like they just remember to play music at that point. Like a whole lot of it takes place in a boring ass supermarket. So you just get the like color hum of a supermarket while people think they're doing funny things, but they talk about them in like a monotone way. Yeah. Definitely a good example of when I know I'm thinking about other shit than the movie, that like we're in trouble. I jotted down that at least the couple of the notes I had. Let me pull those up real quick. One of them was like, how far does like time stopping go? Like, does it go to the molecular level? Like I started having a physics conversation in my head about true time stoppage. Then I thought the British can never complain about American standard system like miles and shit, because I still don't know what the fuck pence and quids and how many pence to quids, and that makes no sense to me. Yeah. And then I was thinking about how inflation really hurts strippers because everybody still gives them $1. It's been $1 for like a long time. Yeah, and it's only become worse and worse.
Yeah.
So that was what I was thinking about instead of paying attention to this movie. And was it supposed to be romantic? Like it did have the beats of a romance, but
it's like unearned. Like there's
it was
so
unearned.
much of it that's unearned, and it's just like if you really buy into, again, like it is like a high schooler. It's the wallflower student who is still a misogynist, who like is just like, oh, I like love women. I appreciate them way more than those jocks do.
Yeah,
but like they just still don't really get it.
He means their naked bodies. He doesn't.
Yeah. I appreciate their naked bodies so much because I went to a museum once and stared at the boobs on the wall.
Yeah, and then
a Swedish roommate as a child.
Yeah,
walked up the stairs. Like that's fucking creepy. The end when he puts on that show, like, and she comes in and is like, oh, they're all pictures of me. I love you now too. But it's like, no, this is fucking creepy. We've known each other for like a week.
Yeah.
Or 2
like,
weeks and we fought for 1 week. Like,
Yeah,
So,
we did
no.
like nothing. She had a bite of my pickle sandwich, and that's not a euphemism. That just happened.
Yeah.
That's an actual thing.
What kind of an insane person eats a pickle sandwich?
The Brits.
Like, that's just wild.
That does sound like British food.
They
All
love
right.
those
Anyway,
pickle sandwiches.
Dixon, to you.
Yeah, this movie is really bad. It feels like a 14-year-old watched Taxi Driver and was like, oh man, that's like just like me. And like just really thought Travis Bickle was cool and took all the wrong lessons from it. And like it's so juvenile and stupid. Like it felt very voyeuristic and like what's the fucking word? The thing where you're a virgin but not by choice.
Incel.
Incel. It felt very
incel.
incel.
It is
like,
very incel.
Yeah, it is. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, like gee, it's so stupid. You know, it's just the whole thing is like he thinks he's better than everyone else because he's just really horny and sad all the time. And it's like as a man who has spent significant portions of his life horny and sad, I understand the shittiness of that. But like that's not something to be glorified or that makes you better than anybody else. It's just fucking stupid. It's just like this guy wallowing in his own self-pity for the whole movie. Just like wondering why no one recognizes how wonderful a person he is and what talent he has the whole time. And then like luckily stumbles into becoming a successful artist because some idiot bro coworkers like play a prank on him, and somehow these idiot bro coworkers know the name of an art gallery
of that art
owner,
gallery.
and like they address to tell them where to go. Like there's
their
so many things
research.
that don't make any sense here. There's no way that those guys have researched anything outside of like how thick a cardboard box you need to go down a flight of concrete stairs. Like there's no way that they've researched anything beyond something like that.
Exactly. It doesn't, there's so much fucking happenstance in this movie. They even have like a character come back from like a flashback at the very end to be a plot twist that happens. And that's like the
Oh my
dumbest
God.
fucking shit itself where you're just like, come on.
For what
like,
reason? For like, there's not even.
to show you that the British
laugh,
British
maybe?
equivalent of Quagmire still gets some with somebody, I guess, because he's just been slapped and thrown like water in his face, which like the only thing that I can appreciate about this film now is that there are some well choreographed sequences and like cool ideas of how to put together a shot. It's
Sure,
like
yep.
when fucking Weenie Baby starts like his insomnia and he slowly like starts rolling backwards into his bed, and they've built like a whole set to make it look like you're floating with him. That was cool. Or watching his friend get slapped and then water thrown in his face, and then both, but in a good orchestrated way of just like, this guy's a piece of shit. And it stacks as he goes. I was like, these are good comedic beats. But then everything else about it, I'm just like, the moment that it would get quiet, I got fearful. Like I forgot parts of this movie where his voiceover would come in, and I started to dread them.
Yeah.
Like every
Yeah.
moment that the music dropped out or people stopped talking to him, I was like, oh fuck, he's going to talk about how sad he is.
His voiceovers with the slow motion videos reminded me, this is a very deep cut, reminds me of Ryan, that fake ad you made for Natty Light.
Oh, yeah.
You were just like, it was like fake,
was it
fake profound shit, like, just
Yes,
stupid
like
words that
deep
didn't make any
thoughts.
sense that are like supposed to be deep thoughts. Yeah, that's what it was. And I don't know, it's just like, this character was so fucking stupid. Like, he explains himself. He's like, well, you don't get it. I love women so much because I like saw boobs as a kid. I saw this girl snatch when I was a child, and it changed my fucking life, man.
Raspberry vanilla snatch.
Oh, that's
It's a solid
stuntman
reference.
throwback there.
You messed up your Royal Bavarian strawberry snatch!
Yeah, it's like, what in the world are you doing? Like, everyone has like some moment where they realize that they like, are horny and like are going through puberty or whatever. It's not like, it doesn't need to be this life defining thing that it's just this profound moment that changed your existence forever and just made you want to do nothing but draw naked ladies for the rest of your life. Like, the way this movie should have gone is like, he gets called into the art gallery. The guy's like, what the fuck? This is terrible. Get out of my office. And then like the girl accidentally stumbles across his collections of drawings of her at work and is creeped out, never wants to see him again.
Yep.
And like, then he ends up like getting fired for like, drawing naked pictures of his coworker, and he ends up like, just having a very sad existence, or like writing for a porno, comic book or something, like that's the way this movie should go. It's like, that's the taxi driver route of this character. But, Sean Ellis is like, no, but like, I'm going to do all these things. I assume the main character is a stand-in for him, because how could it not be? Yeah. Like, I'm going to do all these things, and that's because I'm good, and I'm going to be rewarded for these things and have a, a successful life from here. And it's like, it's a kind of the Taxi Driver ending, but completely misunderstood. And
God damn it, you're so right. It would have been awesome if every time that he was doing exposition, it was the Paul Schrader, like you watch him write, he's writing the letters. And then at the very end, he puts them in an envelope, and on the front it says Hustler or like Penthouse Forum. He like mails them and is like, gets like a cash envelope back, some shit. Yeah. It says so much more.
Almost more than Taxi Driver, it's got Catcher in the Rye feel. Yeah,
everybody's
right?
a phony.
That like sad, whiny, but at the end of it, it's like he just goes back to college. Like, there's no deepness to it at all.
Yeah, it really doesn't register. The cast too. Like, obviously we've talked, the women are flat, but not flat. We all know. The rest of the cast is just fucking despicable.
Yeah.
With the exception of the weird kid that knows martial arts, who is my favorite character.
Yeah, that's true.
They could have done so much more with that character, though. They introduce him and then just do nothing with him. He's just like in the background of scenes doing kung fu poses.
He's literally probably the most likable character in this movie.
By far. Not even close.
There's no competition. He slaps the shit out of one of the bros, which is a great scene.
That was funny. Now I'm remembering two funny things. Fair.
That's right. He does the self-defense technique. Oh my God. They spend so much more time with everybody who's a shithead just to show you that they're a shithead and try to elevate the Sean Ellis stand-in character. Mm-hmm. And it just doesn't, none of it really lands like well at all, because you're just like, God, this just fucking sucks. It's like a bunch of jokes about dicks and the boner comedy stuff that they just wheel out.
By the way, the actor who plays the Sean Ellis stand-in is named Sean Biggerstaff.
Hey.
Because of course it is.
That's like a lazy Lord of the Rings fan fiction name. He's like way better tthan Gandalf. He's Sean Biggerstaff.
Oh my God.
Oh geez. So we've kind of touched on the cast being despicable. There are not a lot of, Ryan, I want to know your two moments. What are your two moments that you remember?
Well, now the slap is funny. And that was actually a legit kind of funny moment. Yeah. The only thing I actually thought was funny was the fact that the boss demands that they hire a surprise stripper for him, for his party.
Yeah.
Like, that's funny. That was something where I'm like, okay, that's actually like well thought out joke. But it's not even played like it's a huge joke like the other jokes in this movie are. It's just like a thing, and then they sort of mention it. But I'm like, that actually is fucking funny in concept. But if you had the boss be more like that, like you had done more with him in that vein, it would have been better. But the rest of the time, he's just an asshole boss. Like, there's not really any other thing to it.
For a movie that has a lot of slapstick in it, I wanted one character that got fucking pummeled on, and the boss was like the perfect character. I mean, the bros too. They fucking fall over and do whatever. But like the boss like gets his fucking nose kicked in with that like soccer ball, which is just like gratifying to see. But like there should have been so many other moments. He gets like milk thrown at him and some other shit. I just wanted things to keep falling on him. I wanted it to be more British in how like stupid some of the gags could be. Like, but it just never doubled down on that. And the weird side quests of like, go get me a stripper and go to the saddest strip club in the world, which I just assume they got the cheapest rent somewhere and we're like, I guess we got to make this place look like a strip club, because I don't think that's really what strip clubs look like. I've never been to one, but I doubt that they look like that. That place was like a library.
Yeah,
it was like hollowed out,
too well lit.
Yeah, it's just with like the most depressing stripper just shooting a cap gun again and again. It's like, all right,
that's what they think of us over there.
Dixon, did you have any were those kind of equivalent funny moments, or did you have like one that you're like, it was...
No, I don't think I laughed.
That's fair.
At all.
That's fair.
During the movie. Like, I recognized what was supposed to be funny, but
of course.
didn't think it was very effective.
And then they had like Zucker Brothers-esque background gags here and there. Like there was a dude who just couldn't stop farting in an art class, and I was like, oh my, it's like a canned fart noise. And then like there's one scene
the Wilhelm fart.
The Wilhelm fart. And there's like one scene where two drunken roommates come out in like a milkmaid outfit and an alligator suit dragging a body somewhere.
Yeah, what the fuck was that?
I don't even know. I was like, I'm really concerned. That's not funny at all.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck's going on is
like
a crime.
that's probably illegal.
Like I think that this movie never really settled into a space. Like it tried to take a little bit of several different things, but then never really ended up solid. Like I liked like you mentioned, the shot of him like falling back, and there's this whole he doesn't sleep for supposedly weeks, but they never really play into that, and it's maybe the reason
they
he
don't
thinks
show any
he's stopping,
ramifications of that.
yeah,
Everybody
not
just
really.
treats it like a normal thing. They're like, I can't sleep again, or like they don't even recognize or
they don't even
acknowledge
bother to like try to make him look tired or for him to like have issues staying awake in class or anything.
he's
or
better
things
than
get
us.
trippy or something. Yeah, like that would have been much more interesting of like his slow loss of grip of reality, or maybe you snap back and like he didn't get these things that he thought he was getting, like that was him imagining it or misconstruing things. And then the time stoppage, like maybe you could have done something interesting other than unclothed women.
That was
unclothe
creepy
all
as
the
shit.
women.
Yeah.
And just draw them while they're naked unknowingly.
Yeah. And it like vaguely, ties in with his artwork and this like wanting to enjoy a moment. But almost, I was like reading it almost more as this like Arrested Development of him not moving forward with his life. That, like everything he hits, he just tries to stop and hold on to that second. But then for him to actually get the girl at the end, like it would have been better if like he also loses her because he can't fucking move forward from like 1 second that was good. Yeah.
Like, again, she should just tell him to fuck off. And she doesn't. Instead, they kiss, and that brings her into the time stop, which is really something that I feel like the moment he would try to explain that to her, she'd be like, you're a crazy person. Who,
you haven't slept for weeks.
Yeah, this is a major problem.
Or she'd be like, wait a minute. You're telling me that these hundreds of pictures that you drew of me are real still life photos, and you paused time and took off all my clothes and just sat there for like an hour and drew me and put my shirt back on and started time again. Goodbye. I never want to talk to you again.
Dixon,
never stop
please.
time around me ever again.
She would never say that. She'd say cheerio.
Oh,
and then she would
okay.
leave.
Fuck off.
She'd call him a tosser and she'd leave.
What the fuck is a tosser?
Oh man. Yeah. So the only real other things that I can think we could talk about with the movie before we move on to what I kind of want to compare it to is the time stoppage rules, according to Ryan, they don't make sense at all. And it becomes doubly clear when two things happen. One, he like kisses the girl and then they both go into the time stop together and some other bullshit. And the other is when he pauses a soccer game to go get a drink and he's just like chilling. And then a dude randomly comes unfrozen and goes, oh, and then runs away. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And they never address that again. Like,
He's out there.
Wait a minute, other people can stop time too? Oh my God, what's going on? And they just completely ignore it. And like, I guess that leads into him thinking he can maybe bring in Sharon into the time stop. But like, who's that guy? Has he been sneaking around in your time stoppages all this time? They're just not explored.
Dude, he's drawn naked dudes out there, maybe. He's the counter. He's the other frozen time bandit? I don't know.
I felt like that was something, again, that I was like, oh, this is going to go somewhere interesting where we find out more about this time stoppage or something, right? But I kind of feel like this was just an editor on his first pass that's like, you can't just pull her into the fucking thing at the end. That doesn't make any sense. You didn't set that up. And so he goes back and is like, well, I'll have this happen. And then that will make my character think about, oh, maybe time can not stop can stop for other people.
Oh my
And that's it. He just like put a thing in there that just introduces more questions because it's not set up nor paid off.
Let me provide the exact wrong amount of explanation for this weird phenomenon.
That's right. It's midichlorians, everybody.
It's the Rankin,
That's what
it's the
causes
Rankin
the
Bass. They try
Yeah,
to answer it, but they introduce more problems.
I call it the Us problem.
Yeah.
The Jordan Peele movie. It's like all the wrong amount of information explained. Wait a minute, they're feeding rabbits to these weird human clones under why? What? Okay.
I like to think of Us as a Jodorowskian interpretation from Peele, and that makes it better for me.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, so like that's some bullshit. And then for no reason they have like a bunch of like flashbacks and stuff that don't really explain any more of what his character is beyond like he was a kid and he got exposed to porn at a young age and like all this other stuff. And it still just like doesn't endear you to him. Any of the flashbacks, I would think in a flashback you would want to endear somebody, but instead it just seems like he's a manipulative prick, and he's always been. Like even when he's a kid, he like learns from his friend you can pay a girl and you can see her nude. And then he's like, oh, if this girl gets a cast and is shunned and I don't shun her, she would be my girlfriend and I would get to kiss her. And it's just like, this guy sucks.
It's like the asshole nice guy.
Yeah, totally.
And all these flashbacks seem to just be him trying to justify, no, you don't understand. I really like women. Like I'm really into their bodies, and here's all the reasons why. Because I went through every stage that every normal kid has ever gone through, and that makes me special and different from everyone else.
But I never became a big buff dude like my boss, who isn't really buff,
Right.
but like is hyper masculine, whatever. This used to. Does it surprise you that this used to be a short film?
No, I
No.
saw that on IMDb that it was short
Yeah.
and turned into a feature. I was like, I can see that. Have you seen the short?
I have seen the short, and the short is obviously it's a lot tighter on time and a lot more solid because it does not have to drag out its runtime with trying to explain
How long
what
is
the fuck
it?
is going on. I think it's like 12 minutes or 15 minutes, something like that.
Feels like an appropriate length for this
And-
type of thing.
and
I
you
don't
can
know that I
tell-
would still like this. I don't think I would like the story still, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, like even then, you don't have much exposure to the character. You're really more of just like, okay, this is what like his moment is like when he's living in a frozen piece of time, and it's like, oh, that's a cool thing. You know, getting a bunch of actors to freeze, as we've seen in Worst Person in the World, is really fucking rad when you can execute it well and when the intention is right. But here it's like they just kept doing it again and again. And after a while, I was like, okay, I get it. Like people can freeze and they can hold themselves really well. And you can move the camera all over the place, and that's cool. But like, you got to tell me a real story. You can't just do this shit.
And there were a couple scenes where you could tell they were actually doing it, and they were filming it for real, and the actors were being very still.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of them were just shot in front of a green screen with a still behind it, and I was like, this is just not interesting.
Yeah. The other movie that I was going to bring up, and I watched it, so I did my homework. That reminds me of this, or like this movie reminded me of it, and I was like, I have to go watch it now. Is Anomalisa, because Anomalisa is about
Hey,
a
I
man
saw you
who-
watch this on Letterboxd, and I
Yeah?
remember you told me before that you didn't love it, and then you watched it and gave it 5 stars. and
Oh
I'm
no! I said
very happy
I
about
liked
that.
it. It just my friend didn't love it, and he had a
Oh.
different perspective. He thought that it was like boo hoo, boo was like woe is me, and I was like, no, it's a fucking Charlie Kaufman film. It's all about a self-loathing character who's like stuck in a rut. It has like the same kind of beats as this movie does. For me, it just ends the way that it should.
It's not glorifying that character.
Absolutely not. And starts with like a whole reflection on a breakup, and has, you know, this lead character being a very successful person who feels like he's making a difference, but also he's like stuck and trying to get out of his marriage and get away from it. And like, he's got one trip to Cincinnati and one night to make it count. And he's trying to like, just have something happen, some affair, whatever he can make work.
There's some of the best puppet sex you'll ever see.
Yes, it's
Outside
it's pretty,
of being John Malkovich.
yeah, it's pretty amazing to me because that movie also
Also
was
Kaufman.
also Kaufman, yeah. Anomalisa was also done, fun fact, by the same studio that does Moral Oral, and the director is actually a director of Moral Oral. So it all fits together for me in why it's dark and why it's done the way it is. But yeah, I was kind of curious what your thoughts are on that, because we've talked about this Cashback being like a failed Paul Schrader boner comedy, and then like Also, Anomalisa, I'm sure you can probably see the lines of it being a better version, a significantly better version. I wouldn't say of this, just a better anything. But like a better story of somebody so self-loathing and like terrible. But I was curious if y'all had any other comparatives or if that resonates.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I love that movie, Anomalisa, and I love Charlie Kaufman generally. And it's been a while since I've seen it. I need to go back and watch it again. But I think it's my favorite of his movies. And I think it's really interesting that you thought of that when watching this movie, because I see a lot of the comparisons there. And it's like, a kind of a story of a self-involved dipshit who is like too, focused on the women in his life. And, in Anomalisa, he's like, all the women in his life look the same because he's just so bored with like his wife and everybody that he knows. And so they have the same face and the same voice. And then he meets a woman named Lisa who has a different voice and a different face. And he's just like so obsessed with her and enthralled by her and thinks she's going to like solve all the problems in his life. And it takes a really interesting turn. And I think it's a really insightful commentary on like a self-involved dude who thinks he's better than everyone else and is just looking for someone else to come above the fray and meet him at his level where he is. And it's just the impossibility of finding someone like that when you hold yourself in such high esteem. So I think that's a much more thoughtful version of an idea like this. And Kaufman is like a great writer to bring something like that out of that kind of character. Sean Ellis is not.
Yeah, I think the one big glaring problem is the lack of drama, like actual drama. Because like, what's the big dramatic moment in this movie? Like the one thing, I guess, is he kisses his ex and what's her name? Shannon, whatever, turns around angry, but he freezes time, so it kind of removes any like actual tension or attempted dramatics. And then when his ex yells at him at the beginning, we don't actually get that. We just get her in slow-mo. When Shannon yells at him later, we don't get that. We just get slow-mo. Yeah, and so there's like no weight to anything anybody does. There's never really anything that like the energy elevates, the tension kind of actually elevates because he just like freezes it or ignores it or whatever. Like there's just no... Yeah, I don't know. It just then makes the whole movie this weird mellow tone.
Yeah, it's like a kitschy, tongue-in-cheek kind of tone to the movie that just doesn't really make a lot of sense with what the movie's trying to say. If it's really trying to say anything, it's not really successfully saying anything. But
yeah, which it kind of reminds me of. Actually, oddly enough, right now I'm reminded of our discussion of Thank You for Smoking and how like that movie didn't have it had a double down at the end. It had like a double down on everything that had been leading up to. And this movie feels like it has the same kind of thing where it doubles down on it, but without any real intent other than to wrap things up and be like, they're happy now. Yeah. Like they're totally fine. And it's a complete and gross misappropriation of that, as opposed to, like we've said it before. Sharon should have walked into her art gallery, quote unquote, and been like, no, I don't like this.
Yeah, fuck this.
I would have fucking loved if there had been a last sequence where she freaked out and started trashing everything in that gallery. That would have been awesome. And like
she freezes time and she tears it all down.
Yeah. And like, he's like trying to stop it and they can't freeze, like unfreezing, freezing, some shit like that would be kind of fun. But no, not at all. This is all an aggrandizing, glorifying thing for the Sean Ellis stand-in. Biggerstaff, Sean Biggerstaff.
I think that the dramatic tension that you expect to be resolved in one way of like Taxi Driver or American Psycho or Thank You for Smoking, right? It's like, oh, they're so shitty and you're waiting for their comeuppance and the things happen that you're like, oh, this is going to be it. This is going too far. The tension is so high, and then it doesn't happen, that it's that like expected deflation that then doesn't happen. Where this one is like, it never gets high, and then it deflates something that never really was a big deal. Like, right? Like,
yeah. And like Taxi Driver is it's painting the character in a horrible light and then showing society praise him. And it's a commentary on you, the viewer, and on society as a whole, right? That like we celebrate these type of monsters in our society, and that violence is so well thought of and all these things. But like, this fucking movie is like trying to get you on this guy's side the whole time and think he is the good guy in all of this.
Artist.
And he's not subverting anything. He's just like making the movie end as it would, having its hero get everything he wants and be successful and happy and have a happy ending to the movie. And it's just like the director just does not even understand the character that he has created and the way that type of person comes across to normal human beings. And it's a huge miss.
Yeah, because I don't remember the bros' names, but the weird looking bro, we all know.
Matt.
Matt. Matt and his like douchiness is clearly meant to be the antithesis of our protagonist, in quotes, who like constantly brags about everything. He's very like outspoken and like completely exaggerates what he's his grand tales of conquest, sexual conquest. And like there's so many moments where it's like he's just doing stupid shit and the movie really fixates on it to show you that he's a shithead. Right. And then it like everything that it presents our lead in is just like, oh, here look at how like meek and softly spoken he is when he approaches her, even though he's still drawing her tits naked like later and stuff. And it's just this like, we're supposed to root for that. And yeah, I can't do that. And even there's like moments where the movie feels like it just decides like, fuck it. You should also like Matt too, just as a character. He's a little fucking scamp. And they do like that weird montage where everybody's getting ready to go to a party and they just start showing them all fucking dancing in front of, and like his friends like masturbating in front of a mirror and like all this other shit that just, that's where I'm like, it feels like they got the green light from the short. Somebody's like, oh, I'd love it if you made this a feature film. And they were like, what did you like most about it? Like the comedy or the story and the premise? And they were like, yes. And they're like, well, fuck, we can't do the story and the premise and the comedy. We have to I guess we'll just figure out how to do both. And so it ends up being this like strung together narrative beats, and everything in between is what can we do that's funny using a grocery store or like a deli section in this store or something like a soccer field. What are low budget things we can use to stretch this out? That
soccer game. What the fuck was the point of that? It was just
it was just so they could make a Heat reference apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was actually kind of funny that his boss just only spoke in movie quotes. Like he was just, really into dude movies and just wanted to talk about Gladiator and Heat and shit like that all the time.
I would have, would it have hurt the movie or helped it? Nothing's gonna fucking help this movie, but would it have hurt it or been like, okay, I appreciate that a little bit if his boss had only spoken in Paul Schrader quotes?
Someday a real rain will come and wash the streets.
He's just saying that in the interview to hire him. He's talking to Sharon and he's like, your friends, I don't think he respects you. Well, yeah, this movie was a big miss. And I think when I picked it, I knew it would probably end up this way. I'm kind of happy we're all in consensus. I looked at Letterboxd and I looked at IMDb. IMDb has a 7.8 for this movie out of 10.
Blows my
we don't
mind.
trust the IMDb reviews.
Yeah.
But Letterboxd has like 3 and 4 star reviews for it, like primarily.
Oh, man. What's the average Letterboxd? I didn't even have a chance to log it yet, so I didn't see it.
It's the average is it's a stair step down. It goes 3, 3.5, and then 4.
3.2 is too high.
Yeah,
it's too high
so 3.2. Just our listener Tyler has watched it as well.
What do we got?
We got 2 stars from Tyler.
Feels a little high, Tyler.
There we go. There was a heart put on it too. You got some splaining to do, Tyler. No, just ribbing you. It is part of his Honey, I Shrunk the Watch List challenge of 2023. And this is watch the movie that was added last is the qualification for this. Tyler writes, sometimes my watch list is pretty weak. I mean, I know why I added this movie. and I expected something more that the cover suggests, which is what Dixon you were alluding to. But he also says, while at its theme, it's definitely more than a horny teen flick, it doesn't really achieve any real substance either. This movie is Clerks meets Porky's, except not funny nor quotable. And that, honestly, that cuts right to the quick of it. Tyler, thank you for your words. I know you didn't share us directly with us, but they were shared with the world, and we just wanted to broadcast them additionally because we also have suffered through Cashback. However, that heart, I don't know, man. You got some explaining to do on that one. What's the heart about? What exactly is that? I feel like it's one of those where I am happy that we all thought it was a failed Schrader film, though.
Yeah. Also, it's like, if you want to think about a boner comedy that works, like, I don't think Superbad is like the best movie ever, but I think it's a good boner comedy that's like,
funny.
It's fun to watch. And it actually like one of the reasons it works is because it acknowledges that its lead characters are actually assholes, right? And in a different way than like the jocks at the school are assholes, but like the little shy nerds who are just praying to get laid are actually just as much assholes as anybody else, and like just as capable of, making people feel shitty around them and saying terrible things and being complete jerks. And like, that's part of the reason that movie is as successful as it is. And this is like trying to do that, but not cast any blame upon its lead character whatsoever, and have him just be this perfect shining beacon of what it is to be a chivalrous male in society.
It's like an indie darling misinterpretation of Superbad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it also has these moments that I feel like are almost like Fight Club or Train Spotting, where it's kind of having these funny flashes to
Not
things.
enough heroin, though.
Yeah.
But without the like commentary on the drugs or masculinity or whatever, right? Because there's like the shampoo bottles in the grocery store that they're like sneaking into women's baskets, because then the women will supposedly use them as dildos or whatever.
That seems dangerous when they have removable caps, but
Yeah. Don't put anything in there that's not supposed to be in there. You're gonna be at the hospital. But yeah, like that. I guess it comes back as a return gag kind of once later, but it's like not that funny and not that inventive, but it does feel one of those like kind of, like, ooh, Project Mayhem, or like, or like Train Spotting, like, look how fucking crazy and, hopped up we are, but it isn't, though. It's just not as smart as either of those.
Yeah, I would say it's like between Superbad being a boner comedy, and this movie also is kind of aspiring to be a breakup film, like something about moving past a breakup and like, don't worry, you're special. Like, you fucking have some talent somebody else will recognize. Even though the breakup is really questionable in this film, like, what the fuck did you do?
Like, reckons with what he may have done to cause that, or how he might have been a shitty boyfriend, or what he could learn to develop as a human being from it. Yeah.
Is that the premise of like High Fidelity? Or there's a John Cusack movie where he goes back through and like asks a bunch of his exes like what he did, and he's actually sourcing feedback from him and learning what he did as a fuck up. But like that, and like Forgetting Sarah Marshall is another breakup movie that came out around the same time that does a much better job of displaying like the feelings and emotions and like the actual toxicity of the relationship that you were in anyway, even though it wasn't like the worst relationship, it could still be a really bad breakup, and here's how to move on. And this one just like, it really does coddle a certain audience and tells them like, no, you're special, don't worry about it. Like,
yeah.
Nerds that like to draw, they're the salt of the earth.
Again, and it's like unearned bits. Like, we don't really know why they broke up. We're kind of getting his vaguely. He doesn't really tell us much anyway, side of the story. And then the first time we see his ex again, she immediately is like wanting to get back with him. She says it's her fault. She tries to kiss him. And then when he tries to get back with the Shannon or whatever, he's like, oh, I learned this. And I'm like, when? He's like, I learned about, living like more about moments and all that. And I'm like, when did that happen? I never saw that.
It was right here, Ryan. I'm pointing to Ryan's heart.
All along.
It was in you all along.
It was just some feverish hallucination he had from not sleeping that was off screen, but it happened. Right. Yeah.
Well, what did we learn here, gentlemen? I guess we learned not to fucking do that again.
We'll to go watch Burn After Reading after this.
That's right, yeah. Burn after watching. This movie is also not distributed on Blu-ray in the States, and I think it's all the better for it. You know, I'm a physical media proponent. I like to encourage that. I think it's fine. I think it's fine to not do this.
There's no 4K digital remaster where you can see the digitally added pubic hair. Like that's
I do still have a Blu-ray copy that's imported from Japan, of all places. I'm sure there's a reason it's only available in Japan.
When they make a retroactive 3D version of this, John will buy it on Blu-ray to get the 3D boobs coming right
after
you.
Dixon got me that generous 3D copy of Prison Girls. Oh boy, I can't wait to watch that and this back to back. Thank you, Kino Lorber. You're a class act label. Were there any other topics, thoughts that y'all wanted to dive into related to Cashback?
Why is it called that? I know that he makes a joke about exchanging time for money, and there seems to be a little bit of thought on what is it to have a job and what is it to sell your time for money. But then they just kind of stop talking about that or really ruminating on that concept at all.
If I was to wager a guess here in the 15 to 16-year-old, I'm fucking deep and brooding. It would be that you get a lot of value out of time, and therefore you get a lot of value out of your moment. And so when you fully utilize your moment to make your fucking art, you get cash back in that equivalency sort of thing of here's your actual payment. The reward of enjoying a moment is sketching naked boobs at an extended time. He talks about appreciating still life, and I assume that comes into it somewhere there. But I think
He talked about appreciating still life, and then he was just staring at a spilled bag of frozen peas on the ground. I thought that bit was funny.
That part was funny.
Nice. Yeah.
That was that's nice. But everything else, just fuck off.
It's also disappointing. The only good actor I feel like in this is Jared Harris as the art gallery guy or whatever. For one scene, and then he's uncredited. He's not even.
That was by. I'm sure that was by choice.
Maybe,
I'm sure he saw this and he was
choice.
like, nah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be in Chernobyl someday.
Right. Exactly.
And he did not. So yeah,
Sean Ellis must have been his nephew or something. I don't know why else he would have been in this movie.
But why is it?
Yeah, we could freeze time and spend all day speculating on why, but really, we should just let the moment pass, much like the movie, and we don't have to revisit this. You know, I do think in some weird, twisted way, this would be great to show in a triple feature where you have a Paul Schrader film, you have this, and then you have Anomalisa.
Yeah.
This probably first, because I would say this is more of a mind-blowing experience for somebody who's never seen Schrader or Anomalisa, and just be like, here's this, and they're like, that seems perfectly logical, oh, I totally resonate with this character, and then go Taxi Driver and then Anomalisa and see what they say after.
That would be a hell of a day.
That it would. But yeah, that's the only instance in which I would probably recommend this being anywhere near a Blu-ray player or digital streaming for you to review. If you want to watch the short film, I'm sure it's good. It's a shorter time. I mean, good in the sense that it is shorter time and it is interesting probably what the techniques they're using are. But it's been a while since I've watched it, so I can't fully endorse it. I will say that I refute Cashback, and I would love to hear. Ryan, what do you think? Would you recommend to refute this?
Yeah, this is also a refute, but if you have to watch it on Tubi because the commercials are pretty engaging.
Oh, interesting. How are your ads, Ryan?
Just any ad would be better than this because they're at least trying to get your attention.
The Limu Emu or whatever the fuck it is in between.
Did they say liberty 12 times in 7 seconds at you?
My dad loves that jingle.
Oh my
It's
God.
a real
Yeah.
banger in our household. Dixon, would you recommend this?
No, Jeff, definitely not. Why would you ask me that, John?
Sorry, I didn't mean to offend you.
I would definitely not recommend this really to anyone. Yeah, just don't do that. If you want to watch a boner comedy, watch, Superbad or something like that. If you want to watch a, movie about a self-obsessed man who can't get his head out of his own ass, watch Taxi Driver and Anomalisa.
Yeah, there you go. I'm sorry, Dixon. I just don't think that I can make you happy. So I guess we have to wrap this episode up.
Maybe we should break up, John.
Yeah. And with that, I have been your host, John Garcia. Thanks for joining us on this episode. And sorry about the cashback if you actually went and watched it before you listened to this. With me, as always, is
Ryan King. The obvious joke is I want my cash back, but I'm not going to make another joke because that's about the level of attempt that they gave in this movie.
I just want my cash back would be a way better joke than anything.
Anything in there, yeah.
it'd be better if Tom Jane was in this movie, but I would feel bad for Tom Jane. And also joining us,
Michael Dixon. Tyler, tell us on Discord what you thought about this. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Sorry about this, guys.
God, you're so sad about it. Fantastic. Hey there, movie buffs, TV toughs, and all listeners in between. John here from the Afterthoughts podcast. I just wanted to drop in at the end of this episode and say thanks for listening. If you've got afterthoughts of your own to share, hit us up. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Afterpod, or jump into a conversation on our Discord server. You can find info for this and more at theafterpod.transistor.fm. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.